He's not going to be president. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
All right.
I think if he becomes the president here, make it great, because the States is already great.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
On that note, Tom, pleasure.
Take it
Thank
from
you
me.
very
How
much.
about that?
Cheers, Tom.
And then, of course, there's Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
So when you stand and deliver that State of the Union address, in no part of your mind or brain can you imagine Donald Trump standing up one day and delivering a State of the Union address?
Well, I can imagine it in a Saturday night skit. I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
He will never be president of the United States.
And we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next. I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on.
Sorry to laugh.
Okay, here we are. And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
And so, right now, Mr. Trump, to answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president, all right? It's been fun. It's been great. I love you. But come on, buddy. All, let's say, cow poo-poo aside, there is zero chance we'll be seeing you being sworn in on the Capitol steps with your hand on a giant golden Bible.
I'll make a prediction, though, for you. And I don't really get into predictions much, but this one I'll go way out on a limb. Donald Trump will never, ever be president of the United States. That Trump should not be in this race. He's an absurdity. He is a travesty.
Donald Trump will never be elected president of the United States.
Donald Trump is the here today, gone tomorrow candidate for president of the United States. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Ever respectful of the fact that the people have not voted, he's not going to be president of the United States.
Let's be clear. Donald Trump will lose the election.
I mean, he had a really good chance to be different and really have a chance to change things, but he doesn't do the work. He's lazy.
We talk about him every day, and we continuously bash him.
He's not going to be the president. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
And we're coming to a point where if you're Hillary Clinton, you're honestly probably starting to think about not just whether you will win, but how big your win will be. And then you say that Donald Trump has the best day in the entire world, completely outperforms expectations, and he wins all of the toss-up states. He wins all 5 of those states, plus that electoral college vote in Maine that he's after. If he wins all of the toss-ups, which would be insane because nobody wins all of the toss-up states, even if Donald Trump did win all of the toss-up states, he would still lose.
Be a wake-up call to the Republican Party. Despite Boris thinking that Donald Trump could win New York, like this, the presidential race is over.
Could I just cut through? I have one thing to say, one thing only, and that is that this race is over. Tomorrow morning, the money will dry up. The Republicans will start to hide. Trump has no place to go. This race, effectively, as of tonight, is no longer a presidential race. I mean, everything I know about presidential politics, and I've been through 5 of them, I've never seen one like this. This race is over. You might as well accept it. And the question now is, how do you minimize damage? And the only way you can do that, it seems to me, is to try to grab hold of some old conservative value things and do what Mondale did in '84, which was try to save a few people down ballot. But as far as Donald Trump's concerned, it will never, ever, ever happen.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump. At least I will go down as a president.
Right. If you guys lived through that entire journey of the mainstream media essentially writing off President Donald Trump, claiming that he would never be president, let me know in the chat. I need to know if my audio is good. Yeah, so we are going to be looking at the stories for today, but remember that when you chat and engage, you get rewarded for chatting if you become the winner of the live chat competition. Essentially, it is a competition that you win when you send in the most chats, not spam, and you liven up the conversation and add some value to the conversation. Today, I'm going to be flying solo. Patricia and Tony will not be co-anchoring with me. So tonight, we're going to be following up on the Eric Swalwell situation. Now, we were told yesterday that Eric Swalwell and the Republican candidate Gonzalez were stepping down. They were resigning, and as the last time I followed up on the situation, none of them have resigned. So essentially, yet another, we're going to do this, but never do it. So we're going to be starting out with the follow up on that. We're going to look at this breaking report from today. Jaw-dropping moment as Representative Eric Swalwell accuser spills it all on national TV. Yesterday, Patricia said she had her doubts about the person who showed up to report Eric Swalwell, but because that person was in the shadows, and the way she essentially gave the account of her experience, it was a bit sus. Now we have a bunch of them out there, and this is one of the first people to show her face. And here's what she had to say about that encounter with Eric Swalwell. Okay. Okay, weird. I can't hear anything. Let me start again.
After meeting him socially, he offered me connections to further my software company.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna stop and start sharing this screen and just try and work on this screen one more time. Sorry about that. Let's see. Okay, so let me know in the chat if you um, hear the feed of the video, because I wasn't I'm not hearing from my end, so I'm trying to monitor what
To
you
you guys.
allegations. She's speaking now in California, Beverly Hills. Let's watch.
In 2018, while I was living and working as a model in Beverly Hills, and I also owned a fashion software company, I had contact with Eric Swalwell on 3 separate occasions after meeting him socially. He offered me connections to further my software company, and I also had an interest in local politics. He invited me to 2 public events I knew he was married at the time and that his wife was pregnant. He was my friend. On the third occasion, I believe he drugged my drink. I only had one glass of wine. We were supposed to go to a political event, and he said he needed to get paperwork from his hotel room. When I arrived at his hotel room, I was already incapacitated, and I couldn't move my arms or my body. He raped me, and he choked me. And while he was choking me, I lost consciousness. And I thought I died. I did not consent to any sexual activity. Although I did not undergo a rape kit at the time, I disclosed the assault to the people closest to me. I also recorded these events in my handwritten calendar. The assault and its impact were later documented during my therapy sessions at a sexual assault center.
All right, so she sounds like this was a real experience, and she says that it's documented. She actually went through therapy because of the experience. Now, no matter where you stand on the political aisle, this is very disturbing. It's very disturbing. Now, here is Eric Swalwell's best friend, Senator Ruben Gallego. Now, he's essentially running damage control for his own reputation because this is essentially guilt by association. This is how politics works. This is how essentially life works. If you endorse someone because you are their friend, it essentially means that you know about their lifestyle and you approve of their lifestyle. So here he is trying to essentially get ahead of the thing that's coming because everyone that endorsed him, from Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, and his bestie, they're all going to get attacked essentially politically and in the media.
You know, I don't know what's going on with his family, but it's definitely a horrible situation for family. They're using that as a cover to attack me right now because they can't do it. They couldn't take back 2024 because they ran a horrible race. But now this is what they want to do. They just want to hurt me as much as they can. Presidents or anything else like that, I don't care. We're going to wait. That's not even a thing right now. The most important thing is I want to protect my family. I want to protect my family's reputation. And this is why we're talking about right now.
Senator, you've gone on trips, on vacations, officially, unofficially. You've gone out, presumably, with the congressman. You've never even witnessed him, I don't know, engaging in an affair?
No.
Never.
What about? No.
How do you explain some of the photos that were online? I know you addressed one, but there is another one that shows both of you without shirts. I mean, how do you address some of those compromising photos?
We were on a beach.
Yeah, I think you were at the desert and on some camels.
It was a beach and a camel, but it's a beach. Yeah. You know.
So essentially, he's desperate to distance himself from his very good friend. Now, I wouldn't say that simply being friends with someone means that you know their deepest, darkest secrets. But it's very important that whenever we are asked to endorse people, we know everything we should before we endorse them. Or when you're endorsing them, you say, well, to the best of my knowledge, this guy is a great guy. But that's not what these politicians do, especially when they're supporting someone in their party. They go whole hog supporting someone, endorsing that person, and because they so desperately want to win, they say things like what Hakeem Jeffries says in this video when he was asked. Well, I don't think he was asked, but it was essentially staged where they were trying to support Eric Swalwell for his his campaign, and they're backing him. Let's have a
Throughout
listen.
his time in Congress, Eric Swalwell, who's both a friend and a classmate, has been a champion for the rule of law, a champion of accountability, a champion of free and fair elections, and a champion of the American way of life. Eric Swalwell is the son of a police officer, comes from a law enforcement family, has a distinguished track record as a prosecutor. Eric Swalwell knows what it means to actually advocate for law and order. And Eric Swalwell knows what lawlessness and disorder looks like. And he never hesitated in calling out the lawlessness and disorder of the Trump administration, of Donald Trump, of extreme MAGA Republican sycophants, and on that violent mob that we saw that fateful day on January 6th. It's my honor to designate Congressman Eric Swalwell as the ranking member, the lead Democrat on this subcommittee. And the House Democratic Caucus will be in good hands with Congressman Swalwell throughout his.
So that is Hakeem Jeffries wholeheartedly endorsing him, and of course he's backed by the likes of Jamie Raskin and others. Now he's being confronted by members of the press asking him why he hasn't
Did you push Swalwell to resign?
Why he hasn't called Eric Swalwell to resign, and here's what he has.
Did you push Swalwell to resign? Did you push Swalwell to resign?
Member conversations that I've had will remain private.
Why did you call for him publicly to resign, given these allegations?
He's made the right decision.
And what about Trifolis McCormick? Should she resign?
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so it's just more politics coming from the Democrat Party on this issue, because they're really quick to condemn anyone on the other side whenever scandals like this break out. And you hear you hear them going after anyone on the other side who has a whiff of impropriety. They would call for them to step down, to be censured, to be fired. And look, one of the problems that I've always had is the fact that there's double standards at play. When the Democrats have someone on their side suffering a scandal just like this, they all rally and protect them. And look, this is not the first time that Eric Swalwell has had a situation that involves sexual impropriety. He essentially was caught one time having sexual relations with a Chinese spy. All right. And the sad thing about it is that the media, and this is not just a story of Eric Swalwell's, problem. It's an issue of the media running cover for Democrats. If we have enough time, we're going to watch a video. It essentially documents Obama's career as president of the United States, and we're going to see how the media has essentially whitewashed his career of all of the scandals that he should have had throughout his presidency, because the things he did should have essentially made him the worst president ever on record. But the press essentially protected him from all of that. So here's the media montage.
Speaker McCarthy seems to have singled you out. He says that he had a briefing, as well as former Speaker Pelosi had the briefing from the FBI, and the FBI never came before this Congress to tell the leadership of this Congress that Eric Swalwell had a problem with the Chinese spy. Political vengeance seems to be the flavor of the day with the 118th Republican-led Congress.
Kevin McCarthy, even in his press conference on Thursday, continues to say false claims about some members, including Eric Swalwell, Adam Schiff, who are key members on the Intelligence Committee, saying that because
So the media runs cover for things like this, and they want to pretend like no one knew that Eric Swalwell did stuff like this, and that he was essentially compromised sexually. I don't want to call him a sexual deviant, but there's a recording I think it was Nick Sorder who got a recording of Eric Swalwell. He was inebriated, and he had some very sordid things to say about women, especially the president's daughter.
Because of some allegations, including a false claim that Swalwell was involved with a Chinese spy.
This is all. So, and this is something else the media does. They go ahead and they reach a conclusion that the evidence isn't presenting. They say this is a false claim. They say it's a false claim until they can't deny it anymore.
About the vengeance. It has nothing to do with factually what the reality is. These are small-minded, petty people who are now in charge of committees. And if they remove you, it's going to be a huge mistake, and people know it.
My wife does say, don't threaten her with a good time, because I'm going to be home now for more diapers to be changed, school drop-offs.
Swalwell has never been accused of any wrongdoing. The investigation in question revolved around a woman suspected of being a Chinese intelligence operative more than a decade ago. She helped Swalwell with a campaign event, some fundraising.
Very old FBI investigation from 2015. Basically, the FBI notified Swalwell that an associate of his might be a suspected Chinese spy. When he was notified, he broke ties with that person. And then the FBI investigated and nothing ever came of it. This was, 10 years ago now.
I guess they were going to release the files.
Yeah, it's clearly, I mean, it's so obviously, he's running for governor. Let's release the files. Maybe there's something in the files that will embarrass him because we couldn't bring a criminal case against him.
He's trying to politicize a report that came out years ago that actually clarified and exonerated Eric Swalwell. And now they want to change that so that to benefit just, the president's narrative.
Now, isn't that the guy who essentially has now thrown Eric Swalwell under the bus? That's the same guy. Okay. So, whenever you watch these things play out, it's funny to see how they start by denying and accusing you or the other side, in this case, you, of leaning into conspiracy theories and of trying to push something that isn't true. They say it's a lie, and that if you believe it, you're politicizing something and so on. And then when it eventually emerges that it is true, none of them ever come forward to say, we were wrong. And that gives them the license to consistently lie to their audience.
To try to stop Eric Swalwell from being governor. They're going to corrupt the DOJ. They're going to corrupt investigations. They're going to force people, to give up their careers just for his little petty vendetta. And because he doesn't want someone like Donald Trump wants someone like Eric Swalwell to be able to fight him every day.
And they always claim that you were connected to an alleged Chinese spy. Do you feel like you are being especially targeted, that it's coordinated even with MAGA media almost?
Well, it's because I'm effective.
Republicans called for Representative Eric Swalwell to be removed from the Intelligence Committee, and this was over ties to a suspected Chinese spy.
Representative Swalwell was never in a criminal investigation.
Well, so there you have it. The Democrats knew that Swalwell had these problems. Look, you catch them in lies all the time. Okay. Now, yesterday we said, look, one person speaking from the shadows is suspect. But we listened to one of the ladies, and here's three more women who have stepped forward to say that Eric Swalwell assaulted them.
The fact that he has now dropped out of the governor's race and resigned from Congress, is that justice in your view?
No, it's just the beginning. It's just the very beginning. And I know personally that we're not walking away from this fight.
For me, justice won't be until he can't ever harm a woman ever again. And he has faced the consequences for the women that he has harmed.
I think in regards to the governor's race, he never should have ran for governor to begin with, knowing the kind of history and receipts that are out there. So that's a non-starter. And then in terms of Congress, I think he absolutely should have resigned. I think we just prevented another 30 to 40 years potentially of him harm if he were to stay in Congress.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think we have served justice for his future victims.
Wow.
That won't exist.
Yeah, so they want him to go to prison. Okay, they want him to go to prison. Eric Swalwell essentially stepped down so that he could keep his retirement and avoid a proceeding that would dredge up all of the evidence on national television. Meanwhile, you have individuals like Stephen Klubeck, who's a Democrat donor, a billionaire Democrat donor. They would always come up to tell you that it's the Republicans who have the billionaires supporting them. No, the Democrats are the ones who have many billionaires in their back pockets, and they are open about their support for the Democrat Party. And here he is essentially trying to protect himself, because when you listen to what he has to say here, it just doesn't make sense. So let's have a
Say
listen.
first, say you're mad. I mean,
Mad?
Yeah.
I am no longer a Democrat. I'm now a libertarian Republican.
What does that even mean? What does he mean by being a libertarian Republican? He's just trying to avoid saying he's now a Republican. Okay, so that he doesn't get attacked by his own side. He's trying to say, okay, I'm distancing myself from this guy. I'm so outraged and mad about what Eric Swalwell did, and he says something that just doesn't make any sense. Look, this is the same song and dance that happens whenever scandals explode and people are dragged out to the light. And look, there's one more thing, okay? You have the likes of Nancy Pelosi, all right? So Nancy Pelosi can't, like, these guys can't help themselves, okay? Nancy Pelosi, on one hand, claims that she didn't call for Eric Swalwell to resign, that Eric Swalwell did that all by himself. This is coming from the woman who strong-armed Joe Biden to drop out of the presidential race. Okay, this is the same person. So do you believe her? So here's what she says, and you now hear a different tune coming from mainstream media.
Did you tell him to resign?
Oh, I think that was his decision. I think it's a smart decision
Right
to
thing
make.
to do?
Yes, the right.
In the case of Eric Swalwell, the former speaker and fellow Californian Nancy Pelosi, I am told, picked up the phone and called Swalwell on Friday night and said, you got to drop out of the governor's race, because remember, he was a leading candidate, and also made clear that he should resign from Congress.
Did you tell him to resign?
So essentially, she lies, says that she didn't tell him to resign, but her team tells CNN that they advised him to resign. So which is it? All right, so guys, let me know in the chat what you think of this story. I know we covered it, but we do know that as a follow-up, the House has recessed today without receiving any resignation letters, or at least without the resignation letters being read. Therefore, both Eric Swalwell and Tony Gonzalez are still in office. So we don't know what's going on. Maybe we'll keep looking at this and figuring out what's going on by tomorrow. So let's know your thoughts in the chat. Now, the next story that we're going to be just touching on, of course, is following up on the fight between Pope Leo and President Trump. President Trump, we remember, has been having a back and forth with Pope Leo. And here's Tom Homan's response to the entire conversation. We did touch on it, and I just wanted to just add a little onto what we discussed yesterday. And then, I need to know what you think of what's going on with this whole thing. Okay. 1 second.
Look, I'm not going to speak for the president. I'm speaking for myself, a lifelong Catholic. I wish they stay out of immigration. They don't know what they're talking about. Because if they wore my shoes for 40 years and talked to a 9-year-old girl that got raped multiple times, or stood in the back of tractor trailer with 19 dead aliens at my feet, including a 5-year-old boy that baked to death, if they understood the atrocities that happened on the open border, I think their opinion would change. And I welcome a discussion with any of them because they don't understand. Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. Where President Trump had the most secure border in the lifetime of this nation right now, lives are being saved. He's saving thousands of lives a year because he has a secure border. Human traffickers are out of business, right? The cartels are going bankrupt because of that secure border. I wish they'd understand that, because if they did, I think they have a different opinion.
So the double standards from this entire encounter with the Pope is really stunning, because the Pope didn't say a word. I apologize about that. So he didn't say a word about all the killing happening in Iran. He didn't say a word about the murders happening in Africa. He didn't say a word with all the attacks that the IRGC have been sponsoring all over the world. Not one word. But the moment judgment falls on these guys, he steps up to say that there's something wrong with that. So the hypocrisy is really rich, and people stepping forward and talking about Trump essentially claiming that he's Jesus. I don't know. It's just pearl clutching. Okay, Trump never said he was Jesus. Trump, from what I heard and what I saw today, reposted something someone else created, and got in trouble. He thought different of it. They deleted it. Okay. Now people attack Trump because of things he posts, things he says, but mostly things he posts. Over the weekend, people got crazy or they went crazy because he said he essentially said a few things over the last weekend about uh, ending the civilization of the IRGC, and everyone's there clutching their pearls. Did he do it? No. The moment he essentially starts negotiating with the IRGC, they say that he's a taco. Okay, Trump always chickens out. And it's all political posturing. It's all politics. It's all political posturing. And I would like us to just take a breath. Take a breath and calmly talk about these topics. I know that a lot of creators, a lot of influencers, a lot of talking heads like to rage and to raise your blood pressure so that you can be emotional about these stories. And you know what? Sometimes it's hard to ignore the outrageous consequences of these stories. But you just need to take a breath and take a close look at what's going on, because many times, while you're so upset about one thing, something else is going on that you're missing completely. Okay? Something else is happening that is flying under the radar because you're so outraged about one other thing. And taking the bait, the outrage bait, is actually the wrong way to do things, because look, it will wear you out. It's going to wear you out. Like I go through my social media feed to find these stories and to figure out, okay, so what's going on today? And I'll tell you that there are dozens of stories happening every day. There are civilization altering things that are happening around us every day. And we miss them and we stop talking about them. Now, one thing that people have essentially stopped talking about is this. Now, do you remember that guy who threw 2 pipe bombs that didn't explode back in New York a few weeks back? What happened to that story? The news media essentially put that situation on the let's call them the conservative protesters who were protesting outside of the mayor's mansion because of his sanctuary city policies. And they didn't focus on the fact that a terror attack happened in front of the mayor's mansion against conservatives who were protesting, uh, sanctuary city policies that make New York City unsafe. Now, here's Batia Onga Sargon, and here's what she mentions something that we talk about regularly on this channel about the useful idiots. The useful idiots is a phrase that was coined by the likes of Yuri Bezmenov and other people from who essentially defected from the USSR, and this is what the communists call people who don't understand the game plan of the Communist Party. So here's what she has to say, reminding us of essentially what's going on under the covers. Under the covers, there are people around us, excuse me, who don't know that the consequences of their votes, the consequences of the things that they support, are actually very real, tangible consequences that can cause people to lose their lives. Like, let's listen to this tape.
You have a left-wing protester on a megaphone saying, "I was born in New York and every person is welcome here." And as he finishes saying here, the ISIS team uses his body as leverage to jump over him and literally throw the bomb.
You don't live in New York. You're coming to New York to tell people who belongs in New York and who doesn't belong in New York. We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem right there, is the useful idiots of the left with their open border policy who do not understand what a nation is and why it's worth protecting. And then the people willing to take advantage of that and cause immense amounts of suffering.
Yes, and this is the sad thing. Even when they see the destruction that is caused by their insane policies, the suicidal empathy that they promote, they don't see it. They don't. That guy that just he was used as a springboard. This guy that was used as a springboard for that attack doesn't get it. Why doesn't he get it? Because the news media jumped right on and said that this was an attack of the governor's mansion and that it was instigated by the conservative protesters. The framing that the media uses regularly is so deceptive that it blinds people who don't know what's going on from seeing the dangers that's right in front of them, right under their noses. And then when the danger eventually hits, what do the media do? They blame the victims. They blame the conservatives, like Charlie Kirk. He was the guy who was responsible for spreading hate and misogynism and all the other things that they claimed that they called him racist. And you know what? People who never heard of Charlie Kirk, called him a racist. So it's crazy how the media is complicit in blinding the eyes of people like this guy. Okay. And do you know what? Even after he saw this attack, it's very likely that you would see him in or at other protests, protesting immigration policies, even after he saw the consequences of unchecked immigration. So you see things like that happening and you can't unsee them. Now we're going to be watching together, and I don't know, you guys, let me know in the comment section what you think of what we've discussed so far. I would like us to have an exchange of ideas. Now, I want us to look at this video. I came across this video. This is not it's not a breaking news story, but it's a video that encapsulates a lot of things that Patricia and I have discussed in private. Patricia and I tend to have lengthy conversations about history and policy, and she's mentioned a few of the things contained in this video, and I would like to share this with you. Now, this video is credited to Dennis Prager, and it's some information about the Obama administration that when you listen to it, now some of you may already have some of this information. That is totally fine. However, let me know your thoughts about what you hear while we're watching this video, because I heard a few things from this video and I was genuinely horrified that the media kept all of these things from us. I'm going to say a few more things when we're done watching it, and I'm going to be reading your chat. So if you're watching, send in your comments in the chat, and we're going to have a conversation around this, because what you see in this video, a lot of it is still happening today, and the media is still doing exactly what they did for Obama. And we're going to see if some of those telltale signs in the video.
Let me tell you something. For 8 years, we were told repeatedly, confidently, almost aggressively, that Barack Obama ran the cleanest White House in modern American history. Scandal-free, ethical, above reproach. The media said it, his advisors said it, he said it himself, with a straight face, looking directly into the camera. And for a long time, a lot of people believed it, because the press wasn't going to tell you otherwise. The late-night hosts weren't going to touch it. The newspapers that spent years breathlessly covering every Republican misstep went quiet, turned the page, looked the other way. But here's the thing about secrets. They don't stay buried forever. And what's coming out now, what has already come out, is enough to make your head spin. So today we're going to go through it, all of it. From the scandals that were buried while he was still in office, to the bombshell allegations being made right now in 2025 and 2026 by sitting officials in the United States government, we're not going to rush. We're going to take our time, because this story deserves to be told properly, and the American people deserve to finally hear it told honestly. Let's start at the very beginning. Because even before Barack Obama set foot in the Oval Office, there were warning signs. Signs that the press chose to ignore because they were too invested in the narrative. The narrative of the young, brilliant, post-racial candidate who was going to heal America and change the world. That narrative was worth too much to risk with inconvenient questions. So the questions didn't get asked. And the American people walked into 8 years of this presidency essentially blind. The first thing you need to understand about Obama is that he was a politician who built his entire brand on transparency and accountability. That was the pitch. Hope and change. A new kind of politics. He stood in front of crowds and told them he was going to run the most open administration in American history. He said government should be accountable to the people. He said secrecy was the enemy of democracy. Those were his words. Remember them. Because what followed was one of the most secretive, stonewalling, obstruction-heavy administrations in living memory. And I'm not saying that 47 of his own inspectors general said it. 47. These are the government's internal watchdogs, the people whose entire job is to make sure the executive branch is following the law. And in 2014, 47 of Obama's 73 inspectors general signed an open letter saying the administration was actively blocking their investigations. Not one or two, 47. That letter should have been front page news everywhere. It wasn't. Most Americans never heard about it. Ask yourself why. Now let's talk about the scandals one by one, because each one on its own is significant. But when you lay them all out together, one after another, a picture starts to emerge. And that picture is not of a scandal-free presidency. It's of an administration that was very, very good at making sure its scandals didn't get the coverage they deserved. Start with Operation Fast and Furious. This one should have ended careers. It should have been the kind of story that dominated the news cycle for months.
When Patricia told me about this one, I I couldn't believe my ears. Okay, but now did you hear about this? Okay, when Obama was in office, let me know in the chat.
What happened was this. The Obama Justice Department, under Eric Holder, ran a program in which they allowed thousands of guns to be purchased by straw buyers and then deliberately allowed those guns to walk, that's the term they used, walk into the hands of Mexican drug cartels.
And do you realize that Democrats tend to use this language as if guns have a mind of their own, as if guns are the reason why there's gun violence, and so they try to institute very restrictive, strict gun control laws because the language they use makes it sound like the guns are the problem and not the people. So you can see that same language play out in this report.
The stated logic was that they would track these guns and build cases against the cartels. But here's the problem. They lost the guns, thousands of weapons, just gone, in the hands of some of the most violent criminal organizations on the planet.
Now, whenever there are many Democrat policies that have a stated goal, but the stated goals are never the goals or are never the consequences or the results of the policies. They never are. They never are. Okay, so it's always funny when they try to sell you these things like Medicaid and Medicare, Obamacare. Obama said you're not going to pay a cent more than you currently pay with your health provider. And if you want to keep your current provider, you're free to keep them. Is that the case right now? And when you challenge them, they make it sound like that's a MAGA or a Republican talking point. And then they try to deflect to talking about the one big beautiful bill. Okay. Lots of lies and lying going on.
And then one of those guns turned up at a crime scene in Arizona where Border Patrol agent Brian Terry had been shot and killed, a federal law enforcement officer, dead because of a program run out of the Obama Justice Department. Congress wanted answers. They subpoenaed documents. Eric Holder refused to hand them over. Congress held him in contempt, the first sitting attorney general in American history to be held in contempt of Congress.
I didn't know
And what
that.
did the Obama administration do? They invoked executive privilege to shield those documents from investigators. Executive privilege, the same legal tool they accused Republicans of abusing. And
I remember Obama blatantly screaming that he was going to veto one thing or another. I remember him doing that, and I believe that was back in, I think that was 2009. I think it was, or late 2008, early 2009. He kept screaming how he was going to veto one thing or the other. And watching him, it was like, wow, this is a black guy taking charge. Little did I know that all of this was going on in the background, that he was using his executive privilege to block investigation into some of these crazy things that were going on.
The press largely moved on. Brian Terry's family didn't get justice. The full truth never fully came out.
If this was a Republican president, and I mean, they would have run this story for months. They would have made sure it never died. You would have Anderson Cooper crying outside the house or the home of the fallen police officer. They would pull out all the stops in order to destroy the reputation of the Republican president. Look at how they lie about Trump. Okay, because now, is Trump perfect? I say it again and again, he is not. But when the only thing that these guys have against Trump or have to use against Trump are fabrications, it shows you who they really are. All right, these aren't real people. These aren't honest people. When the only tools they have that the only tool they can use against Trump to hurt him are lies, then it shows who they really are. It's called bearing false witness. And the sad thing is that there are lots of people out there who just repeat these lies without doing their own research. All right. So I challenge you, if you're watching this, and you don't agree with some of the things that were some of the conclusions that we reach while we're looking at these stories and making and running our commentary, do your own research. Break out ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, find something and ask it to to fact check all of these things for you. And please don't feed it your bias. Just say, look, tell me if this thing is true. Give me the facts. And eventually you will find that there are a lot of things that are said by left-wing media, mainstream media, and by Democrats in Congress that are just not true.
And Barack Obama got to keep his scandal-free reputation. Then there's the IRS. And I want you to really think about this one, because it is arguably the most chilling abuse of government power
This is the
we have seen
craziest
in
bit
decades. Under Obama's IRS, conservative groups, Tea Party organizations, liberty groups, groups with words like patriot or constitution in their name were systematically targeted for extra scrutiny when they applied for tax-exempt status. We're talking about ordinary Americans who wanted to organize, who wanted to participate in their democracy, who wanted to exercise their First Amendment rights. And the federal government used the power of the IRS to slow them down, frustrate them, bury them in paperwork, demand their donor lists, ask them what books they were reading. This is not a conspiracy theory. This was confirmed. Lois Lerner, the IRS official at the center of it, admitted the targeting happened. Then she went before Congress, invoked the Fifth Amendment, and refused to answer any more questions. The Justice Department under Obama refused to prosecute her. She retired with her full federal pension. Nobody went to jail. Nobody was held accountable. And Obama stood before the cameras and called it not even a smidgen of corruption. Not a smidgen. While the evidence of politically motivated targeting was sitting right there in plain sight. Think about what that means for a second. Richard Nixon dreamed of using the IRS against his political enemies. He never actually pulled it off. Barack Obama's administration did it, and he still gets to walk around with his legacy intact. Let's move to Benghazi. Now, I know some people hear that word and their eyes glaze over because they've been trained to think of it as a right-wing obsession, a dead horse that keeps getting beaten. But strip away the politics and look at the facts, because the facts matter. On September 11th, 2012, the American diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya, was attacked. Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans, Sean Smith, Tyrone Woods, and Glenn Doherty, were killed. It was a terrorist attack carried out by an al-Qaeda-linked group called Ansar al-Sharia. The intelligence community knew this almost immediately. Within hours, there was reporting that this was a coordinated terrorist attack, not a spontaneous protest. But here's what the Obama administration told the American public. They sent UN Ambassador Susan Rice out to 5 Sunday morning news programs, and she told the country that the attack was a response to an internet video, a YouTube video that had insulted the Prophet Muhammad. That was the story. That was the official line.
Now that's crazy, because this is part of the narrative that has been seeded by the Obama administration and other Democrats and left-wing media, that any attack on Western civilization, any attack on Americans, is caused by Americans. So it essentially justified the attack by saying, oh, they were only responding because they wanted to defend their religion. Would they say the same thing if someone decided, okay, we're going to kill all of the members or all of the officers at your consulate simply because someone, okay, let's say with the controversy that took place over this weekend with Trump posting that meme, of him dressed in the traditional, because Jesus didn't dress that way, okay, because people, essentially, artists have depicted him that way. But I digress. So Christians see that meme and they're like, okay, Trump is blaspheming Jesus. Let's go kill some people. And they storm all the embassies in all the Christian cities in the world. Would they be making that statement then? They say these things to excuse the violence that comes from a certain religion or a certain group. And they make it look like it is the fault of the victims. It's totally outrageous.
Obama himself referenced the video in a speech to the United Nations. For 2 weeks, the administration pushed that narrative. And here's what we now know. They knew it was false.
Please, whenever you hear the word narrative going forward, okay, learn how to replace that word with lie, because that was a lie. I mean, they've changed words so that they sound softer, and it's more permissible to say, okay, it's a narrative. No, it's an outright lie. So whenever you hear the word narrative, and avoid using it in your day-to-day language, because once you normalize using it, okay, you make it okay for these people to lie and call it a narrative. It is a lie.
When they were saying it, the emails came out, the internal communications came out. Officials had specifically asked that references to Al-Qaeda and prior warnings of danger be removed from the talking points Rice used. Scrubbed, gone. Because there was a presidential election in less than 2 months, and the Obama campaign's central foreign policy argument was that Al-Qaeda was on the run and the war on terror was being won. A coordinated Al-Qaeda attack that killed an American ambassador did not fit that story. So they changed the story, they lied to the American people, and 4 Americans who died in service to their country got used as props in a political cover-up. Now let's...
And the report, again, says that Hillary Clinton, the report was that Hillary Clinton refused to send the U.S. Marines to extract these people. But Patricia, I wish she was here, Patricia told me that the only person who has the authority to deploy, to order the deployment of the U.S. Marines is the President of the United States, not the Secretary of State. So essentially, Hillary Clinton fell on her sword for Obama to save face. And I guess that's why they rewarded her with being the front runner of the President of the United States. Look, it's just crazy, okay, when you begin to unpack all of these things and see why those things happened. And that's why I keep saying again and again, time is our friend. Sometimes the things that we're seeing or feeling may not, be clear to us right now, but when we give it a couple of years, they begin to emerge. But I'll be honest with you, I don't want to wait a couple of years before I see the catastrophe that's coming. All I have to do is look back and see what has happened in history, and I can tell what's going to happen next.
Let's talk about surveillance, because this is the one that should have united the left and the right in outrage, and somehow didn't. In June 2013, a contractor named Edward Snowden leaked classified documents revealing the scope of the National Security Agency's domestic surveillance program. What those documents showed was staggering. The NSA was collecting phone records on virtually every American. They were tapping into the servers of major tech companies. They were conducting surveillance on foreign leaders, including allies. The scale of it was almost incomprehensible. And all of this was happening under Barack Obama, the constitutional law professor, the man who had campaigned on restoring civil liberties after the Bush years, the man who had given speeches about the importance of privacy, the man whose supporters had spent years accusing Bush of being Big Brother. Under Obama, Big Brother got bigger. His response to the Snowden leaks was telling.
Kidding.
He didn't apologize. He didn't acknowledge that the program had gone too far. He called Snowden's leaks a threat to national security and pushed for his prosecution. He offered some modest reforms that changed essentially nothing about the fundamental architecture of mass surveillance. And the press, which had been deeply exercised about Bush-era surveillance, largely gave Obama a pass. The rules it turned out, were different depending on who was in the White House.
Yep.
And speaking of rules being different, let's talk about the drone program, because this is one that I think gets far too little attention, and it reveals something important about the gap between Obama's image and his actual record.
So before we listen to that, have you noticed that all the things that Bush did, that the Democrats essentially criticized him on, they dialed it up to 11, and the press were totally fine with it. It's just like what we saw over the last few weeks. Obama drone. Okay, we're about to watch that right now. Obama was essentially droned, like he bombed. He he had more bombings than any other president before him, and the press was fine with it. Trump targets hostiles, doesn't bomb as much as Obama did, but he's the Antichrist.
Under Obama, the use of armed drones expanded massively. He authorized more drone strikes in his first year than Bush had authorized in his entire presidency. Thousands of strikes across Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Libya. And with those strikes came civilian casualties, people who were not the intended targets, who were simply in the wrong place. The administration classified virtually any military-age male in a strike zone as a combatant, which made their reported civilian casualty figure.
Lies. Civilian military-age males were essentially counted as enemy combatants in order to minimize casualties. This is just crazy. Like, just watching it and seeing that we all lived through this, I did not know what was going on. Many people out there, even in the United States, don't know that this was going on. And these guys sit at these panels and they try to lecture us about how Trump is the danger to democracy when they are the ones actually who are the danger to democracy.
Look much lower than independent observers calculated. They were cooking the numbers on dead civilians. But here's the one that really should have lit the civil liberties crowd on fire. In September 2011, Obama ordered a drone strike that killed Anwar al-Awlaki, an American citizen, in Yemen. Now, al-Awlaki was a genuinely dangerous man, a radical cleric with ties to Al-Qaeda. Nobody's defending him. But he was an American citizen, and the United States government killed him without a trial, without due process, without any judicial review whatsoever. The President of the United States put an American citizen on a kill list and had him executed by remote control. 2 weeks later, al-Awlaki's 16-year-old son, also an American citizen,
now, this part is
who by
crazy.
all accounts had nothing to do with terrorism, was killed in another drone strike. A 16-year-old American kid, when a White House spokesman was asked about it, he suggested the boy should have chosen a more responsible father. That was the answer. That was all the accountability there was. Where was the outrage? Where were the civil libertarians who had spent the Bush years screaming about due process? They were very quiet because their guy was in the White House now.
Yep.
And the rules were different. Let's talk about the Iran deal, because this one has consequences we are still living with today. In 2015, the Obama administration negotiated the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action with Iran, the nuclear deal. Obama sold it to the American people as a historic achievement that would prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. What it actually did was give Iran billions of dollars in sanctions relief, allow them to continue enriching uranium at reduced levels, and set up a timeline under which the most significant restrictions would simply expire, the so-called sunset clauses.
The reason why Trump has to fight this war with Iran today is because of two Democrat presidents. Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama. And while they were creating this mess, the press hailed them as messiahs. But now that Trump is cleaning up their mess, he is the devil. I like to watch these things because it educates me and it validates a lot of the things that I've felt, but never really had the words for. Okay. I don't come here pretending to be an expert. Many times I'm discovering things alongside with you, or I discover things and I'm so excited and I just want to share it with you guys. And watching this essentially is just like confirming that everything that we felt was wrong, that was going on in the Obama administration, everything that we see today with what's going on in Iran with the war and how the mainstream media is frothing at the mouth about Trump bombing the IRGC, not the Iranian people, the IRGC. And again, you see that thing where they lie and they start twisting words to make Trump look like the bad guy. We see this happening today in real time, and everything is because two Democrat presidents, ruined things for the world.
In other words, it didn't stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. It paused the program and then handed it back with interest. But the deception around the deal was arguably worse than the deal itself. Ben Rhodes, Obama's deputy national security advisor, gave an interview to the New York Times Magazine in 2016 Inches, which he essentially bragged about how the administration had manipulated the press and the public to sell the deal. He talked about creating an echo chamber, his words of friendly reporters, think tanks, and analysts who would amplify the administration's messaging without independently verifying it. He described journalists as inexperienced and easy to work. He was proud of this. He said it out loud in a major newspaper interview. The manipulation of the American public's understanding of a major foreign policy agreement was something he was boasting about, and there was remarkably little outrage. And then there was the cash, the $1.7 billion in cash, actual physical cash, loaded onto pallets, flown to Iran on an unmarked cargo plane in the dead of night. The Obama administration initially denied that this was a ransom payment connected to the release of American hostages. Then the evidence made that denial impossible to sustain, and they had to walk it back. They violated the law in the way they structured the transfer. They did it secretly. They lied about it. And Iran used that money, some portion of it, to fund the terrorist proxies that have been causing chaos across the Middle East ever since. Now, I want to take a moment and talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough, which is the deliberate use of the intelligence community as a political weapon. Because what's been coming out over the past year takes everything we thought we knew about the Obama administration and puts it in a completely different light. In July 2025, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard declassified documents and made a formal referral to the Department of Justice. Her claim, backed by a House Intelligence Committee report that had been sitting classified since 2020, was this. After Trump won the 2016 election, Barack Obama directed his senior national security team, including CIA Director John Brennan, DNI James Clapper, and National Security Advisor Susan Rice, to manufacture an intelligence assessment claiming that Russia had interfered in the election to help Trump, and the key word there is manufacture.
Okay, so let's pause here. If Trump had been reported to have manufactured a dossier, a report, claiming that his political opponent, let's say Joe Biden, was a Russian asset or was an IRGC asset, and afterwards we found out that that was the situation, I'd like you to tell me how the news media would have carried it. What would have happened? Would Trump still be a free man like Obama is, like Hillary Clinton is, like John Brennan is? It's the double standards that really gets to a lot of us. And I'll be honest with you, Just like Huck Finn has been pointing out for a while, or for several live streams, something is brewing because people are getting fed up with the lies. They're getting fed up with the gaslighting. They're getting fed up with the two-tier justice system, because everyone can see that if it was a Democrat president who committed all of these, like if everything, if even half of the things that we've heard so far were done during the Trump administration, what do you think the Democrats would have done to Trump by now? What do you think? So it's insane that we have to sit and watch a two-tier justice system play out before our eyes, and we're told that that we're crazy for noticing it. When they started screaming and ripping out their hair over the attacks on Iran and the ICE and the immigration policy enforcement and all of the things that every other president has done, but simply because Donald Trump is doing it, it is suddenly a constitutional crisis. I mean, if that doesn't wake anyone up yet, then I can't help you. And I'll be honest, I've decided that there are people that I can't help, because in spite of everything that's played out before their eyes, they still can't see that they are being lied to. We can only just keep providing the knowledge, keep pumping things like this out there. And that is if they get to see them, because most of them live in an echo chamber. They don't even consider some of the things that are being said. Speaking of echo chambers, while I was doing research for tonight's live stream today, I ran into a bunch of posts that are anti-Trump posts. They are not friendly to Trump or MAGA. And none of them had a policy position that made sense. They were all bent on smearing and mocking Trump and MAGA. Nothing about policy, nothing constructive. The only thing they exist for is to smear and to shame. That's all they exist for. So if all they have is lies and attacks and shaming, and the people who support Democrats can't see that, I don't know. I honestly don't know what to do for them.
Because the intelligence community's assessments throughout 2016 had consistently concluded the opposite, that Russia was not using cyber means to influence the election outcome. A document prepared for D&I Clapper on December 7, 2016 specifically stated that no Russian or criminal actors had impacted vote counts. That document was pulled hours before it was supposed to be published. Then, on December 9th, Obama convened a secret meeting of his senior national security officials. And after that meeting, an email went out with the subject line, and I'm quoting directly from the official release, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling. The President of the United States, the outgoing president, had just tasked his intelligence community with producing an assessment on a specific topic, reaching a specific conclusion to be used against his successor. What came out of that process was the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that launched the entire Russia investigation, the Mueller probe, 2 impeachments, years of chaos, all of it built on a foundation that, if these documents are accurate, was constructed by Barack Obama for political purposes. Now, I want to be precise here, because precision matters. Obama's team disputes this characterization. Experts have noted that the declassified documents don't definitively prove what Gabbard claims they prove. There are people of good faith who look at these documents and reach different conclusions. The referral to the DOJ does not mean charges will be filed, but here's what you cannot dispute. The documents are real, The timeline is real, the email is real, the December 9th meeting is real, and the contrast between what the intelligence community was assessing before that meeting and what appeared in the ICA 2 months later is real.
All right, so I'm going to stop this video here. I've already shared this video in the chat. I posted the link in the chat. You can watch the rest of the video in the chat. Let me know what you think of the stories that we've covered so far and this video in the comment section. If you're watching in the chat, let me know where you're watching from. We usually do this with a drink in hand, but I'll be honest with you, I'm feeling a little bit tired. Last night we went really long, and I only had about 2 hours and a few minutes of sleep. So I'm kind of running on, not on fumes. I had a nap this afternoon, but it's fine. So we had a winner of our giveaway yesterday. Huck Finn was the winner of the giveaway yesterday. Today we don't have. We basically had no one pushing comments in the chat. That's fine. Okay, so we're gonna hold on to our giveaway. All right, so we're going to continue tomorrow. Okay, we're going to look at the news stories unfolding tomorrow. We're going to have a conversation, and then hopefully we have Patricia and Tony back on the panel. The truth is that for a lot of people, the war in Iran is taking up so much bandwidth that nothing else really measures up to their awareness. And like I said earlier, there's lots of things happening under the radar. They fly under the radar, you don't notice them. And hopefully we can bring some of these stories to you when they emerge. Well, I want to say thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I like, doing these live streams, and I enjoy hanging out with you, especially when the chat is active. We're going to be back tomorrow, later tonight. This is me. I'm it's past midnight here, and so it's going to be later tonight, and we're going to be bringing more stories and conversations, and we're actually going to be having more fun, and hopefully we'll get more activity in the live chat. Right. So I want to say thank you for hanging out, and if you're watching after the fact, leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and give us your thoughts and your suggestions. Maybe tomorrow we might decide to read some of the comments from the past live streams, because I enjoy replying to comments that way. All right. So thank you so much for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next one.